Uranus in the 11th house. In this video, I'm going to be breaking down natal Uranus in the 11th house, everything you need to know about this placement and how to master natal Uranus in the 11th house, and really the important takeaways when someone has this placement. All right, let's discuss. So with this placement, Uranus influences your long-term goals, your friends and your network and your legacy, okay? The 11th house in astrology has to do with your long-term goals, your friends, the networks that you form and that you build, and your legacy and the legacy that you'd like to leave behind. So when you have Uranus sitting in your 11th house, Uranus influences your long-term goals, your friends, your network and your legacy. Now this can manifest in many different ways. With this placement, you have a very unconventional, radical approach towards your long-term goals, shared ideals, your friends and network, and your legacy, okay? Uranus and the house that it falls in tells us the type of matters that we have a very unconventional, radical approach towards these matters, right? So the 11th house, again, has to do with your long-term goals, shared ideals, your friends, your network, and your legacy. So when you have Uranus in the 11th, you have a very unconventional, radical, just very different approach to these matters because that's what Uranus represents. Uranus represents the type of things that we have a very unconventional, radical approach towards those matters, meaning we don't approach those matters in the typical, normal way. We approach those matters in an unconventional, radical way. You may see your long-term goals, making friends and building a network and leaving a legacy behind as a way to liberate and free yourself. Uranus and the sign and house that it's in tells us the type of matters that we use as a way to liberate and free ourselves from constraints. So when you have this, you may see your long-term goals, making friends and building a network and leaving a legacy behind as a way to liberate and free yourself. This placement also indicates forming friendships with unconventional and radical people and joining unconventional and radical groups and organizations. Okay, a lot of times when people have this placement, they form friendships with very odd, unconventional, radical people, and they join unconventional, radical groups and organization. Okay, you got to be careful when you have this placement to not because what happens is a lot of times it's likely that people will join a cult or just some very suspect group or organization. So you got to keep an eye out for that. Is you want to make sure that the groups and organizations that you join and the friendships that you form with people, it's healthy friendships, it's healthy groups that are going to improve your lives, not where you're joining groups and organizations and like a lot of times too when people have this placement, they're likely to join a gang. They're likely to join a gang or a cult because it indicates forming friendships with unconventional, radical people and joining radical groups and organizations. All right, so you want to make sure you watch out for that. Don't, be misled by radical people that are trying to steer you in the wrong direction and join groups and organizations that are very suspect and very odd that you really shouldn't be a part of. You may experience radical, sudden changes that involve your long-term goals, your friends in your network, and your legacy. All right, Uranus and the sign and house that it's in tells us the type of matters where we experience radical, sudden changes. It's like 1 minute things are this way, the next minute things are that way, and just we experience radical changes with these matters. So when you have this, you may experience radical, sudden changes that involve your long-term goals, your friends in your network, and your legacy. A lot of times when people have this placement, they tend to have their friendships end suddenly. 1 minute, they had someone that they were really cool with and really close to, all of a sudden they cut each other off and they're done with each other. And you may experience that frequently, constant ups and downs and changes as far as your long-term goals, your friends, your network, and your legacy. All these things can manifest in many different ways. This is similar to having natal Uranus in Aquarius because Aquarius rules the 11th house. So when you have displacement, you want to make sure you study natal Uranus in Aquarius as well because Aquarius rules the 11th house. And you will find that when you study natal Uranus in Aquarius, that information resonates with you and that information sounds like you. All right. And that's the important takeaways. Email me to schedule a reading if you have any more questions or if you still don't understand. My contact information is in the description box below. Thank you for watching. Like, share, subscribe, comment down below. Let me know what you think. Take care.